there is a problem with trust between patients and insurers and providers and government. So they don't really trust each other for 100%. So what can we do about it?
Yeah, well, see, exactly. You've described the problem is that there's so many stakeholders, you know, government, patients, their families, insurers, the providers, and then even within the provider, there's doctors and nurses and administrators. There's many, many trust issues, and so there's a challenge here. But if we can begin to bridge the gap and build the trust consciously, deliberately, it will enable us to do other things that are going to be very important to help transform Dutch healthcare. For instance, the ability to collaborate and partner and team is going to become very important as we take more of a patient-centered approach to healthcare. To do that, you've got to be able to collaborate with multiple stakeholders. Mm-hmm. To collaborate, you need to be able to trust each other, because without trust, you can't collaborate.
So where does the trust has to come from then? It doesn't fall from the skies, you know?
Trust doesn't fall from the sky, but where it comes from is from each leader, each party coming to it by giving to those that they work with a leader or a team or an organization that they can trust. In other words, if everyone will start with themselves, look in the mirror, trust themselves, but also give to their partners and to the system a leader and an organization that can be trusted, that's a good starting point. So that's the first step. The second step, I would say, would be this, is that the leaders and the organizations need to declare their intent, declare what they're trying to do and why, especially the why behind the what. So that helps build trust, is when you say, hey, here's our agenda, here's our motive, here's what we're trying to do, here's why. In other words, it's not a hidden agenda. It's open, it's transparent, nothing to hide. And when you declare that helps build trust with people, because they have hope now. And that's what they need to, so that they first need to start with themselves and be trustworthy, their credibility. The second is they need to declare their intent. The third thing then is they need to do what it is that they said they were going to do. You know, you do what you say you're going to do. So you said it, declare your intent, now you need to do it. And when you say it and then do it, you build trust very fast. But if you say it and don't do it, you destroy trust very fast. So we need to walk the talk. We need to do what we say we're going to do. And then finally, the last step, the fourth step would be, we need leaders and organizations in Dutch healthcare society to lead out in extending trust to others. In other words, don't wait on everybody else. Don't wait on others to trust you. You lead out in extending trust to others. And you got to be smart about it. It's not a blind trust, but a smart trust. So I look at you want an example of a company that's done that?
Yeah. But first, you can have this attitude. You can trust. You can go from look at it from the positive side. But do the healthcare leaders, the providers, do they have the competencies to do it, to walk, to talk, as you tell it?
Well, that is kind of the real test. Mm-hmm. But if they can learn to do their work in a way that inspires the trust, in other words, how they do what they do makes all the difference. It will change everything. Mm-hmm. And so part of what Franklin Covey Netherlands has done is we've identified these high trust behaviors, things that you can do and how to do them. And if enough leaders will begin to engage in these behaviors, and they're common sense things like talking straight and creating transparency and righting wrongs and clarifying expectations and practicing accountability and listening first and keeping commitments. You see, if you do those things and behave in those ways, you will begin to move the needle on trust. And when the trust goes up, all kinds of other things go up with it. So leaders do need to learn how to do this, but in a sense, they kind of intuitively already know. They just have to become consciously competent at it. And it may take some time. But they need to be aware of what the behaviors are that help them grow trust, and then to get good at them. And when they do that, they'll move the needle on trust, and that will move all kinds of other needles.
Okay. And you analyzed some examples from Dutch healthcare, didn't you?
Sure. I mean, there's examples all over. Achmea, they start from the premise with their customers when they file claims on the insurance side. They start from the premise of trust. They assume that they can trust their customer. and they get rid of a lot of the excessive bureaucracy and redundancy where many claims companies start from the premise of distrust. Like, I don't trust my customer. They're trying to be deceitful or fraudulent with me. Achmea starts from the standpoint of I do trust my customer until they prove otherwise. And they operate on that premise, and as a result, they get greater speed. They also get lower costs because they don't have the same bureaucracy to oversee it. They still keep in place some high-level controls to make sure that it doesn't become stupid trust or a blind trust. It still is a smart trust, but they start with trust, and what happens is the customers, they like being trusted. They become more loyal to them. They stay with them, and they refer more business to them. And they grow their business better and faster than if they started with distrust, where they had all the costs of distrust, of the bureaucracy and the redundancy in the systems of not trusting. And you might think you're a little bit safer with distrust because you avoid the big mistakes, but what's safe about losing customers? when you don't start with trust, the customers leave you.
So now Veros has put trust on the agenda, which sounds, in first place, sounds a bit abstract. What can they do to really make the difference?
Yeah, well, first of all, I really admire what Veros is doing, because in a sense they are declaring their intent that they want to help Dutch healthcare society through the creation of trust and in entrepreneurship to be able to solve the challenges and the opportunities going forward. And they know that if we continue to do things like we're doing, it's not sufficient to become the healthcare system that's needed going forward with all the changes, the aging population, the shift towards a more market-based system, and also the shift towards patient-centered care, and finally the shift towards more collaboration and cooperation and teaming needed to provide all these services. To do all those things, you can't just do them at the flick of the fingers. You've got to build the skills of that, and the key skill that enables all those things to happen better and faster is the ability to create trust.